And welcome to Self-Storage Made Simple. I'm your host, as always, Thaddeus Campbell. Very excited today to introduce you guys. Actually, I say introduce because most of you guys know, to welcome to the show somebody that I've gotten a chance to know. Actually met him for the first time a year ago, March, in New Orleans at a mastermind event and then the SSA show. Have had a chance to connect a few times since then with Aaron Saunders, the president of Spartan Group's general contracting arm, their construction arm. Aaron, thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon to come and join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Grateful to be here. I know we've touched base a few times over the last year and just happy that we were able to make this work.
Yeah, super excited to chat with you. And every time I've been able to connect with you, we've been at a couple different mastermind events and gotten to connect at trade shows and, a couple phone calls in between to talk shop and always appreciate really two things about you that made me super excited to have you on the podcast. One, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this first, is just your demeanor, man. Just somebody that everybody gets along with, that treats everyone I go back to the golden rule, right? I'm reading The Law of Success right now, Napoleon Hill, and everything goes back to the golden rule. And that's something I think you personify. Every time I see you interact with somebody, it comes from a place of kindness. So I want to just point that out to you and say it's something that jumps off the page. But the second thing is your professionalism, your knowledge about our industry, your knowledge about construction in particular. So I was very excited to have you come on and pick your brain, especially right now where, especially for someone like me that has been really concentrated in the ground up development side of self-storage. There's been challenges on almost every front, and construction's been one of them. Costs have kind of gone crazy. So excited to go down the road with this conversation and see where it goes, and grateful that you came on and joined us. Always when I bring people on self-storage made simple, I always like to go back and kind of pick people's brain. I found myself getting into real estate super late in life. So I'm always like to hear the story of how people made it into this little niche industry in real estate of self-storage. So if you would take me back to the beginning of your kind of entrance into the real estate space and how you managed to make it into self-storage.
Yeah, it's kind of a long path, but first I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words, and again, the first time I saw you speak on stage, I kind of felt that same thing. Like, man, listening to this guy speak, like he just gets the crowd. You can feel the energy. You just have so much energy, and you care so much about the people you work with and the members in the audience, and just very engaging. So thank you again.
Back at you, Aaron. Appreciate you back.
Yeah, yep. So I started. I guess how far should we go back? I got into construction kind of indirectly right out of high school. Worked at a fab shop for a while. Ended up going to Colorado State University for construction management. And then I went into the heavy industrial world. I absolutely loved big, highly complex projects. So, big 100 million gallon a year ethanol plant, biodiesel plant, did a coal fire power plant, a lot of different power and emissions control projects over the years. But one thing, I just always loved real estate, and um, being able to tie real estate and construction together has been the culmination over the last 20 years or so. But right when I got out of college, it was 2006, and you could buy as many houses as you wanted. All you had to do was sign your name. So I bought as many rental properties as I could get my hands on, and that kind of started things off for me on the real estate side. But I transitioned those in 2017 into multifamily limited partnership positions. Just got tired of managing the rentals and working with my property manager. We just struggled with that quite a bit. So my career in construction was taken off. I was a director of operations for my last company, one of the 10 owners of the company, and wanted to move those assets into something a little bit more passive so I could focus on my construction degree or construction position.
Your day job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then I was a minority owner of that company, and we decided to sell. And by we, I mean everybody else but me. No, I did vote for the sale, but after being an owner and losing that opportunity to really drive the direction of the company and get to share in the benefits of being an owner of a company, I realized that, selling that company and going back to a full-time W-2 employee just wasn't going to work for me. I wanted to be part of the ownership group, driving and leading people and growing an organization, and also sharing in the profits of what you get on the backside of sowing all those seeds. So yeah, so the Spartan Investment Group team, the leadership team here, specifically Scott Lewis, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're looking at starting our own construction company, and first we're going to have you guys, build all of our projects. You don't have to go knock on doors. You just have to come in here and bring your knowledge and build a team and build this company from the ground up." And for me, it was like, the perfect opportunity. I absolutely love real estate. I love construction, and so I joined the team here in 21, and shortly thereafter, we built something pretty cool and started building for others outside of Spartan. And a little over 3 years later now, about 60% of our projects are outside of the Spartan family, which has been amazing. I think we're at 15 people on the team right now, projects in half a dozen different states, and quite a few more coming up this year.
I see you guys. Jack Muddy, who works for you at Spartan Construction. I see you guys all over LinkedIn all the time with different places in the country that you're doing
Oh yeah,
projects and updates, and so it's awesome to see that constant stream. And some of them Spartan, the self storage side of it owned in house, but other ones that you're doing outside. You opened up so many doors for me to go down as you took me through that journey. It's one of the reasons that's always my first question, because you
yeah.
gave me so many things to talk about. I'm going to go back to the very beginning, and as somebody fresh out of college, 2006, how do you even know to start going buying single family rentals? What was the I guess the spark that made you realize that was something you should start doing?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to my dad. My dad he was my financial advisor, financial coach for a long time, and he was the one that got me into real estate initially, and yeah, that kind of sparked things for me there. But a little bit before that, when I got out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went to go work for a fab shop, and if it weren't for my shop foreman, threatening to fire me if I didn't go to college, I might still be there today. So he saw something in me that I didn't see, and I ended up going to school for construction, and here I am, you know, 20 plus years later.
This opens up a door I wanted to go through with you anyway, because as I said, I met you at a mastermind event. That's something that's been powerful in my life, and I know you're a member of, at least one that I know of, and also I met you at a different one, so I know this is something that you've taken some time, and it makes sense given what you said. But tell me why it is that you go seek out those rooms with other people, with other professionals, in some rooms that I've seen you in, where you could say that other people in there could be considered competitors of yours, but you're in that room and contributing and more than happy to talk shop with those people. What is it about that you found to be powerful for you?
Yeah, I think self storage is a unique industry. Coming from the heavy industrial world, I would never go sit down with any of my competitors there and share and talk shop, because we were head to head, and it was pretty aggressive there on the competition. On the self storage side, it's a totally different industry. Everybody here is out to help each other, whether that's at the trade shows, giving the presentations on dozens of different topics every show that you go to, the masterminds. Everyone is giving back to the industry in self storage, and that's one thing that I love about it so much. So as soon as I joined on with Spartan, I actually went to a mastermind, and like this light went off in my head, like, this is amazing. Like, all these people are just really good people, and they're out here to help each other, and yes, they're getting helped in return and supported in return. And I just kind of caught the bug of, I want to give as much as I possibly can. I don't have, like, when I started in 2021, I didn't have any storage experience. I just finished a project working on the Eisenhower Tunnel for CDOT, and that doesn't really translate to storage very well. But um, big project experience and highly complex projects, and bringing that to storage and implementing some of those processes, that's what I was able to give back. And so I do presentations on how to do due diligence on a general contractor, and how to review a construction contract, and what the different terms mean, and what you as an owner should be looking out for. a lot of different things on process, what you should expect from your contractor. I want to give that back. Ultimately, it may get me a project in the future with those owners, but I also don't want them to go down the path with another contractor that may end up, in a poor project because the expectations weren't set early on. And so I just love giving back, and in return, I get to hear everybody else speak and learn about their story and implement some of their lessons learned in our projects.
Absolutely love that. This is a topic that comes up in 90% of the podcast interviews that I do. A lot of times because, I have people on that were in this industry way before I was and were so kind to me when I first got into it. I spent the bulk of my adult life teaching martial arts, right? Like, we didn't get together and do mastermind events. We got together and beat the crap out of each other. That was our way of getting better.
Yeah,
So it's just such an odd thing and not that we were rude to each other. And we discussed, I was in an organization, in a franchise organization. So we would share things with each other. But outside of our franchise, it was like enmity, right? Like if you were dealing with the school down the street, you weren't sharing with each other how to market better for more students. Like it's the oddest thing. So I wanted to just kind of ask you if you've had any idea of why that is. Why is storage just so different than any other industry that I've ever seen?
yeah. I mean, maybe it goes back to just the roots of storage, and obviously, I have a 3-year tenure in the storage industry,
Me too.
so
You and I
so
are you and
pretty.
I aren't going to come up with the perfect answer between us.
No, no, that's okay. But it started as these mom and pop operations, these smaller operations, and then the state, SSAs started to get together and join together, and they weren't competing with each other because it was, this town, and our customer pools are completely different. So why not join forces and work together? And then that just spread across each state. And then the states ended up getting together, realizing, hey, we're not competing with anybody here. Let's do everything we can to support the industry and not just keep everything to ourselves. And I think that's just grown this culture of, hey, let's give back and feed the industry. And whether that's legal support or the trade shows, sharing contractors and lessons learned. Um, I, that's my assumption. Yeah, sounds pretty good to me, so maybe we'll run with it.
You stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with it. Yeah, and listen, I've talked to a bunch of different people that have given me feedback on that question, and actually, a lot of the answers that I get are similar to that. I talked to Mitch Feldman, who is a developer that's been building storage for 20, 25 years, and he said, "Listen, when I got into it and I knew nothing, everyone that was already in it told me what to do." And so
Yeah,
I consider it, it's that pay it forward deal. And again, goes back to the golden rule. I know faith is something that's super important to you in your life. And it seems to be pretty common in the self-storage world as well, that people kind of live that lifestyle where, hey, I'm going to treat other people the way I want to be treated. And fingers
absolutely.
crossed, even as we go in, what some people are calling turbulent times in self-storage the last year and a half. Although I would suggest that if you're in self-storage, if you consider this turbulent times, I would ask you to go be in some other industries when things
Yeah,
get rough.
tell me
Because
about it.
the turbulence in self-storage a little different than everywhere else. But as this industry matures and all of a sudden it's not so mom and pop, you hope that attitude continues and people still continue to treat each other so well, because it's been absolutely what I found from the beginning until now.
Yeah, I think bonding together during tough times is the best way to pull through it. So yeah, appreciate it. Yep.
So, gonna push forward to another question that I wanted to ask you. I ask everyone when they come on the podcast to list a book that they would suggest, and you listed a book that I haven't read, which is uncommon. Usually, when people list them, it's something that I've at least gotten into a little bit. But I have read the author before. So you listed a book called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. I read
Yeah,
the Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and so the reason I'm going down this road is you work for Scott Lewis at Spartan. Scott is part of the leadership of a mastermind group, and I know that I haven't ever met Scott. I'm looking forward to it at some point, but have been able to kind of follow him from afar. And tell me a little bit about the book, and then as it pertains and kind of related to what you guys are doing at Spartan as a company.
Yeah, so I'm only about 9 pages into the book. So I know
Oh,
we talked about it. It was on my list, and it's been traveling around in my briefcase for the last few weeks since
I put you
we
on the
talked about
spot.
it.
That's
Yeah,
too
so
funny.
that's okay. But it is a good. The intro was really good, and really the idea behind the book is that the biggest advantage that businesses have is, yes, there's advantage in managing your cash flow and managing your expenses and managing your revenue and marketing budgets and sales team, but the biggest advantage and the most impact that you can have on your team is on your culture and taking care of your people and really building that culture inside of an organization. You're going to go so much further than you will, combing lines of your P&L. And um, that's really the gist of the book, and that's one thing that Scott Lewis and the founders of Spartan have done so well, is really just instilling those values in Spartan from day one. If you walk around our office, they're not just written on the walls, but they're lived in every one of our meetings, in our hiring, the way we bring people on and onboard them into the team, the way we coach them on a weekly basis with our one-on-ones. You talk about reading. I'm sitting in the library now, and there's a bookshelf across from me that has 100 and something books on it. And I think last year I was 24 books or something like that I read, plus books for my general contractors licenses. So we're definitely a learning organization, and we focus a lot on education and just helping to build up all of our team members, whether that's through personal or professional development.
How do you think that because everyone talks about it, like I've been in companies where they talked about it
Yeah,
and didn't exist. Like it wasn't there. Like they would talk about it and they would discuss it and they would implement things that they thought were going to create it. But it was when the bosses were out of the room, the employees were miserable. How do you create that culture where people are driven to? I think Spartan's grown in the last 5, 6, 7 years from single digit company to triple digit company. How
yeah.
do you create that? What are the day to day things that happen to make a group of people pull together and move in the same direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just comes down to that. It is day to day. It's the way you operate every single day and every single conversation. You can't vary from who you are and what your values are. And as soon as you do, that's when your culture is going to slip and there's going to be a break in the culture. And I mean, the biggest thing that we do is we just reinforce it in every single one of our meetings. So, on a weekly basis, the whole Spartan team gets together and we do our weekly sync, and we go around the whole room and everybody gives a grateful for someone in the organization that they're grateful for. Then we'll go through, and not every week, but on our reoccurring pattern of meetings, we'll do a lessons learned, and it starts with the leadership team, and we speak up and say, "Hey, this is one thing that I messed up, and I want everyone to know about it so that it doesn't happen again, and so that everyone's aware of it." And we just instill that value, whether it's personal growth, professional growth, respect, integrity in our meetings, tenacity, and really the big thing that we focus on a lot is transparency as well. We want to have candid feedback from our whole team, and we expect that in all of our calls. So if I say something you know out of line, anybody in the organization will feel comfortable standing up and raising their hand and calling me out and saying, I don't think that's the right thing. And if we reinforce that on every day, every meeting, hiring people, we let people go, and they can go work somewhere else based on values violations, and we hold them pretty close to our chest, and we um, don't allow anybody to slip. And
It's
that
a
it just
non-negotiable
helps
for you
feed
guys.
it, right? It
It's
is
a
a
it's a
non-negotiable. Yeah, it's
standard that
just
you're
who
going to
we
hold.
are.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Yep.
love that. That resonated with me so much. I was much older in my career, well into my 40s before I ever really kind of got exposed to this idea of, personal growth and digging into what makes big businesses really work. And so it's interesting. You said something there that I thought was phenomenal. I got exposed a couple years ago to a life philosophy called Ho'oponopono. It's Hawaiian life philosophy. That's the crazy name, but the long and short of it is 100% accountability, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, if something's going wrong, it's never external. It's always internal. And so what jumped out at me about what you said is that the company directors are gonna come out and say they're that you let go of the ego and you feel comfortable sharing the mistakes with everybody. And I find that to be so powerful because that is not common, right? That is not a thing that many CEOs, C-suite executives feel comfortable doing, getting in front of, the rest of the workforce and saying what went wrong.
Yeah, it's easy for me. I make mistakes all the time. So,
How many times do we hear stories of the people that make mistakes all the time and just, a hide it, don't admit the mistake in it, right? We know what that happens. It waterfalls and turns into something bigger and bigger and bigger. Or B, blame, right? That's that
yeah,
guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. Don't look in the mirror and take accountability. So it explains a lot to me. And when you said that, explains a lot to me about why you guys have been able to have the reputation you have in the industry, but also grow the way you have and have that respect level. So it doesn't surprise me that you guys would hold that so close to your heart. I want to dig into something you said there, which is about, you don't allow a values violation. I think that's the first time I've ever heard it said that way.
yeah,
How do you bring someone on board and make sure that they're going to be a fit for the values that you guys hold so dearly?
yeah. Our interview process is pretty long. So I don't know how many steps are in it, but it starts with just how they approach the interview process first, or how they apply for the project or the position. So understanding their resume, how well and professional was their resume put together? Is it really respectful? Is it a growth opportunity for them to put that resume together, or are they just slapping together something that doesn't look right, isn't well suited for the position? Does it have a cover letter that's actually addressing that position, or is it saying, hiring manager from business XYZ, I'm interested in this position because, well, what position are you hiring for? Did you send this out to 100 different people for 100 different positions? So that's kind of the first hurdle. Then our amazing HR team gives them a phone call, talks them through. It's just a list of basic questions, but it's all focused around how much research have you done around Spartan? What what really draws you into Spartan? What values do you really align with? And then they'll write down all their answers, and as the hiring manager, we'll go through and review those. And the people that make it through that first hurdle are the ones that have really reviewed everything there is to know about Spartan. They've watched all the YouTube videos, they've listened to the podcasts, they've been on the website, they understand our strategic plan, they know our values, and they align with those values, and they specifically call those values out. And that's kind of the first thing is, yeah, they're on board. If it's, well, I don't really remember, what was your website again? Aren't you guys the ones that do multifamily? Well, no, yeah, you're probably not going to
Wrong
pass that
fit.
hurdle. Yeah, and then we do a series of different tests, the Wonderlic assessment, a PSIU, and a culture fit test. And then as the hiring manager, you'll spend half an hour to an hour talking with that person after they go through those tests. Then we'll bring the person in, and they'll do a panel interview and meet with three different people from different departments, and just spend an hour kind of getting to know each other, understanding their background, how they can be part of the organization, and then we'll get feedback from those three panel interviewers, and just see if they really believe that that person is bought into our values and they'd be a good fit for the team. And by no means do we want to clone everybody and have the exact
Yeah.
same looking person, but we want to make sure that everyone's bought into our values and that we're not going to get watered down as we've grown from, I think I was maybe 17, 15, 17, somewhere in there, and now we're at 150 people across the country. So just making sure that everyone's bought in and aligned there. And then after that, they'll do a practical, just to make sure they have the skill set to do the work as well.
Mhm.
And then they'll meet with the executive team, and the executive team is really just that last check to make sure they feel like they're bought in, and they're dedicated to being a Spartan. Um, so it's a pretty long process, and we get some feedback that, oh wow, it's hard to hire people, as it is, and then you gotta take people through that process. But really, when you get the right person on board, it more than makes up for it.
So we used to say in martial arts, right? You're what would you rather do? Bring in a new student or keep a student you already have, right? And so
Yeah,
I think and it goes back to one of the things I really valued when I was running my martial arts school is that I didn't sign up a lot of new people, but I had a really large school because people stayed. And but that was one thing I was very cognizant of without really realizing it. I knew what I wanted in my school, and I was pretty selective on the front end, and it made a big difference on the back end. And I was going to recognize, like, some people would hear that and they would say, well, you're going to stop yourself from growing. But the exact opposites happen, right? Like, you guys have
Exactly.
grown very, very quickly, and not just grown, but grown in respect and successfully grown within the industry, despite that level of stringency in your hiring process.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, that's exactly why we've been able to grow so fast over a short amount of time.
I absolutely love that. Listen, I try and keep this thing to a reasonable amount of time for people to dig in. What I want to ask is, your job is Spartan Construction. Your job is not only building stuff in house for Spartan, but I know there's a couple projects I've been involved in that you're putting bids on and hopefully be involved in.
Yeah,
Somebody that's a developer that doesn't have general contracting experience, and they need a little bit of insight from Aaron Saunders, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and maybe get your help on a project?
yeah, you can check us out on our website, which is spartanbuilt.com, or you can shoot me an email, aaron@spartanbuilt.com, AARON@spartanbuilt.com, and either one of those things, I can support you on the process and help point you in the right direction, and give you any support I can.
What I can say about this guy is that if he can help you, he will. And the one big thing I would say, and of course, we're all in this to make a living. This is how we all put food on our plate. But I think Aaron's one of those people that understands in the bigger picture that it's about helping people in the grand scheme of things. And so I know that he's a guy I would highly suggest you touch base with if you need any help in that side of it, because he's going to give you honest help, and be willing to give you anything he can. So listen, man, I hope we get a chance to do this again sometime. It's been so cool that
Absolutely.
it's been almost 30 minutes now. We're running up against that 30-minute, and it feels like it's been about 2 minutes talking to you. And I had about
Yeah,
15 other directions I could have gone, but I want to honor your time, and I want to honor the people that I try and make this podcast digestible, is the word I like to use. So try and keep it at a time frame where people can get through the whole thing. But hopefully we can get together again soon. I know I'll see you at some mastermind events coming up very soon. And hopefully we can get on the podcast again and dig even deeper into this wonderful world of storage.
definitely. Thanks, Thaddeus.
Listen, if you got anything out of this that was helpful in any way, shape, or form, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you see the upcoming episodes. Would love to have any feedback you have, any guests you might suggest. We gave you Aaron's contact information. If you need a GC or looking for a bid on a project, feel free to contact him. He'd be happy to help there. I'm always looking for pieces of dirt. So if you have any lines on raw dirt that might work for development, hit me up. We'd love to have them. We will see you next week on Safe Storage Made Simple.